President Cyril Ramaphosa will tomorrow, in his capacity as chairperson of the African Peer Review Mechanism, chair the 30th African Peer Review Forum of Heads of State and Government meeting. The African Peer Review Forum is a committee of participating heads of state and government of the member states of the African Union who have voluntarily chosen to comply with the African Peer Review Mechanism. For more on that, we're joined by Thulani Tshifuta, chairperson of National Governing Council of the APRM, which is the African Peer Review Mechanism. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to the viewers as well. And thank you for having us.
All right, so take us through the paces firstly. What's on the agenda?
Well, firstly, let's take this opportunity and thank you for having us so that we can have this conversation such that as the President of the Republic of South Africa goes into a platform with his counterparts, we are able to encourage and support him and commend him not only for leading at the continental level by starting at his home country, South Africa. So the 30th summit of the APR Forum of Heads of State and Government is the highest decision-making structure of the APRM in the continent. It gets to be attended by heads of state and government of the AU member states that have acceded to the APRM. And in the agenda of the summit that will be taking place tomorrow, we will be having the opening session where President Ramaphosa, in the capacity of being the chairperson of that forum, will be making the opening statement and remarks. And our hope and confidence is that he will lead by example in taking his counterparts into confidence about the progress of the APRM work in his home country, South Africa. Over and above that, the summit will be receiving a new member who has just recently acceded to the APRM, being the DRC. The agenda itself will provide space for countries that have done a full review of the APRM, Liberia being one of those countries. And there are countries who have done targeted reviews, a country, for example, focusing on health in light of COVID-19, a country focusing on public finance and monetary issues. And then those will be thematic reviews which those countries will be presenting. Over and above that, the summit is used as the space where countries that have gone through the review process of the APRM come back and update the heads of state and government on the progress of implementation of what they have been advised to go and improve in their countries. So that is basically the architecture of the agenda of the summit that will be taking place tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, most of the time a debate would come up in as far as a peer review mechanism having an element of non-interference. But then do countries have a right to out each other in terms of where they are not actually doing things right? Like when it comes to the issues of unemployment, lack of service delivery, human rights, gender abuse, and all that?
The instrument of the APRM on its own is a voluntary instrument. So countries that accede to the APRM agree to open themselves up for scrutiny by their counterparts. By its definition, the APRM is an African-led and African-owned process of self-assessment. So countries are encouraged to take a pause and look back and assess the extent to which they are able to advance in the areas which focus on the thematic focus areas of the APRM, basically being democracy and political governance, corporate governance, socio-economic development, and economic development and management, basically. So countries that accede to the APRM do so knowing very well that they open themselves up so that out of the lessons that are drawn from those reviews, they are able to improve. The process of the APRM does not only end with the development of an assessment report. Out of that assessment report, the heads of state, as they will be meeting tomorrow, will be analyzing the reports that are presented to them and see where are countries having deficiencies in their governance systems and processes, and what can they do to improve on those. The process of the APRM is therefore positioned as a process where countries can learn from each other, such that countries that have certain experiences and lessons are able to share with others, such that the other member states do not commit the same mistakes as others have committed, but we're able to learn from each other and thereby improve the development in our respective countries. And so the APRM as an instrument is used by member states to hold each other accountable to the highest level to which Africa aspires to improve governance and development in the continent.
Right, it's one thing to learn from each other, but the other to actually call wrong wrong. From the platform of the African peer review mechanism, are countries able to say that, well, I mean, like, we have reviewed all systems in each other's countries, but we cannot actually learn violation of human rights on your side. We cannot learn in as far as corruption is concerned, because what is wrong is wrong. So are these countries able to call a spade in as far as reviewing each other's works?
Well, as you would expect, there is a certain level of diplomacy, but as you will see in the proceedings of the summit tomorrow, the session where the review reports of different countries are considered will be a closed session. And it was agreed that it must be a closed session such that the heads of state and government are able to be open, frank, and robust with each other. If we are to learn and improve on governance and development, the starting point of wisdom is to call things by their name. If, as leaders in the continent, we fail to call each other out, we will be misleading each other. So one of the expectations of the APRM is that we must be able to identify challenges that our countries, regions, and the continent are going through, and be able to come up with mechanisms through the instrument of the APRM that respond to those challenges directly. And so, yes, form of the review is where the heads of state, on the basis of the report that is on the table, are able to critique their counterparts, are able to punch holes on the report that is presented, and beyond that, are then able to provide constructive criticism and advice on what can be done to improve those circumstances that have been identified. And with every country that goes through the summit of the heads of state and government, there is space where with every country that presents a report, they then lift high-level strategic issues which that country must focus on in a program of action. And therefore, a country that presents a report there is expected not only to say, yes, we have listened, yes, we have heard. A country is expected to go back to national processes and make sure that the feedback received from the forum and the summit is integrated into their national plans, and there are annual programs that are being implemented to respond to those challenges which shall have been identified through the review process of the APR forum.
All right, Thulani, much appreciated. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Thulani Tshifuta is, of course, with the Governing Council of the African Peer Review Mechanism, speaking to us right here on SA Today, bringing us to the end of the second hour. And we have one more hour to go. We take a break and we get right on it, so don't go away.